What's going on, everybody? My name is Paul Sampson, and welcome back to DataDash. Today, we're going to be diving into the Bitcoin chart following yesterday's FOMC meeting where the Federal Reserve decided to leave interest rates completely unchanged. And we'll take a look at how this is impacting the crypto markets, including silver pushing up to new highs as well, Ethereum holding pretty much steady, and a strong move that came out of Coinbase stock. Now, with the traditional markets closed today in the United States for holiday, we'll also discuss what kind of price action we can expect from Bitcoin in the short term and how things are shaping up technically as we head into the weekend. So let's jump right into the charts. All right, folks. So Bitcoin is pretty much remaining relatively sideways here, which we've been in for quite some time. And I want to just kind of start with pretty much that higher time frame setup that we've been hammering on for quite a few weeks now at this point. And to put it simply, it really does still just remain this overall setup. And at the highest level right now, this truly is the most valid setup that I still do really lean on the most, especially while we're kind of trading in this sideways momentum here. Now, I will kind of point out the potential for a move where we actually come back up towards these highs. Usually that's known as a short squeeze, and we'll kind of touch on that here in a bit. But overall, just still really remaining relatively neutral here. I think that the idea is still truly that we came up, we formed this bearish shark is the setup, is what is known as. It's a harmonic pattern, which is a sequence of Fibonacci's, which we've covered quite a few times. I don't want to bore you too much with it today, but overall, basically, this is a setup where we come down and we take the lows. All right, we came down lower than this area here. You come all the way back up to the highs. You end up effectively taking out the highs, right? You come into this region. We had a completion zone up between basically 108,000 to 114,000, and we were even looking for a specific time frame, which we were targeting all the way back when we were trading in this region here, which was for the end of May. So everything really has lined up relatively nice for this. The overall target zone still does remain this region down here, about $88,000 to $93,000. I think that the negative news catalyst around us right now, could very well be something that propels the price action into that region. So at the moment, that's still really the overall thesis. And even if we were to see a push up first, the overall drawdown to this region is what I've been heavily anticipating for quite some time here. Okay. And I do actually look to this region as a huge area of opportunity for us to come down to. We would effectively be knocking out many, many people in the market. On top of that, I do imagine that there would be a good amount of fear going on. I'm sure that the news would not be too exciting. Realistically, from where we are right this moment, it's only about a 10% drop to that region. Unfortunately, that would not be a great time for the altcoins. But this area, I do believe, offers up a really unique opportunity for whether it's the buying opportunity for many that have missed this rally to the upside alone in Bitcoin. It's going to more than likely bring down altcoins to areas where people may deem them as pretty valuable as well. And while by no means can I predict what the market is going to do, I truly do foresee that region being the area where if we're going to break this range sizably to the upside, meaning this overall region we've been in Bitcoin for the last few months, I do foresee us needing to pull back just a little bit more into those key regions, hit those target areas. Once again, the fear is probably going to be a little high. News is going to be extreme at those areas. And then from there, we would look for the strength to come back in, and then a next leg higher overall in Bitcoin, which in turn is going to mean for the overall market, I imagine the stocks and traditional markets would come with it. Now, that structure that we were just looking at, began basically on inauguration day and took all the way up until potentially around, if we're topped at the moment, took about 4 months basically for this formation to complete. So one thing I've been hammering on as well is that while it seems brutal right now in the time that we're just kind of ranging to the side, that it would be at least 1 to 2 months before we come down to those target areas. So this topped at least currently around May 22nd. We're coming into that same time frame now, a month later in June. So I think we'll see relatively soon here if we're going to get a stab down into that region, or if we're going to get a push up before that and then a stab down in these next few weeks here. So I do still think there's a bit of time before we actually come down to that key area. At the moment, while that pattern and setup is very valid, okay, things can change, of course. I'll be the first to come out and say when they do. But that is the overall idea here. I think we have a little bit more time before we get there. What can we look to Bitcoin over the coming days and as we come into the weekend here, right? Maybe even the rest of today as we are closed for the traditional market, maybe we get a little excitement in crypto. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll be good excitement. Well, as you'll note here, I only have really two areas mapped out aside from our yearly open, and one of them is last week's low. One thing I look to each and every week is the previous week high and low, and I reference that heavily because that is where, and once again, at any point, this market is getting filled with new positions and people are going to be moving their stop losses up or have new stop losses right below that region. It's also a key area where it's going to incite breakout traders to the downside. It's going to incite fear because we're looking like we'll be breaking down past these local lows. So it does have a big amount of relevance in that region. And if we were to come down, assuming just over the next coming days here, I would say that even though the overall move to the downside here is on the table, I think that there's a setup here where we come down and we take the lows as usual and potentially bounce right around this region, which is about 97, 98,000. And the reason being is, one, we have our quarterly VWAP here, which is the volume weighted average of price for the quarter so far. So coming in here right at around that region here. And also if we take a fixed range volume profile, which is going to give us the overall value area of the volume that's taking place in this whole region. I'm going to take this from the overall range, basically, that we've been trading in, pulling all the way back from November 10th. And you can see that our point of control for that range is also sitting right around this $96,000, $97,000 area. So just kind of giving a little key region as far as if we were to break this to the downside just in the next coming hours or days, that even though that overall, 93 down to 88 is a big region I'm looking for. If we were to push down into this area first, I would say that this is going to be probably a big zone. It's going to offer up a potential bounce. At that point, you'd want to look to see just lows reclaimed, right? So we look for some short-term, regaining of these areas here, and then just push back up into this region, right? And that ultimately that could very well do nothing more than just put in a little bit more of this downtrend where we have our high, a low. We really do have our lower high at the moment. Let's pretend we come all the way down to this region here. We've got our lower low. And if we were to push all the way back up even to 106, 107, we'd still be putting in what's looking as, potential downtrend that could overall still take us into these areas below. So that's our downside. Short term, if we see a little bit of a pullback right this moment, where I'd be looking for the next bounce opportunity would be really around that previous week low into this $97,000, $98,000 region. Okay, for those reasons. Now, on the flip side, I do want to point out that I think that there's a case where we could see a potential little short squeeze. And what that means is that there's a lot of people shorting the market right now because of the fears and uncertainty around the global conflict, as you may all be aware of. We've also come up and done something relatively bearish, right? You come up and you've taken your all-time highs and closed back below, pretty bearish thing to see. I think we can all agree to that. And at this point, we've just seen this time and time again. Come up, take the overall highs, you get a drop. Come up, take the overall highs, you'd look for a drop. So it must be said that once again, you're consolidating into this region. Honestly, it looks relatively bullish at the moment as well. So while I did just kind of give a overall little downside opportunity, something to look to, got to be prepared for both ways and be able to react to the market when those opportunities arise, right? So the other thing I'd be looking for here would be, once again, like I said, a potential short squeeze, all right, where the market actually reverses pretty heavily here, comes back up towards these highs. I wouldn't overlook 109. But that is something that's very much in the cards here, right? And once again, just because of how many shorts have built up, really since probably 100K, when we came back up to this area, there was so many that were probably revenge trading this pretty heavily, right? Back when we had all the negative news around the tariffs, and didn't seem like this was going to be a move that continued higher. Then people missed the bottom, and then you get everybody's just trying to revenge trade. So there's a lot of shorts in the market, and with that being said, we're in a little bit of a limbo here, because if they really start to get underway here, they become the fuel to more downside. And at the same token here, if we actually start to see the price action push a little bit higher, they become the fuel to the upside. All right. So it's really a little bit of a waiting game here to see what is going to be the end all be all play. I still, once again, regardless if we actually get a push to the upside or we just break down first and continue lower, I still think that the most opportune region to see a pullback and an area to consider to look for fresh entries across the market is going to be that $88,000 to $93,000 area on Bitcoin. And when that occurs, obviously the altcoins are going to be at locations and specific zones that are going to be possibly opportune at the moment at that price point as well. Ethereum has remained relatively flat, front running my major target that we've been looking for a few, ever since we really put in this bottom here, front running that $3,100 zone by about 7.5%. And we come back, we're basically right at the back to the area that we've been trading at. We're right above our quarterly pivot, which is our high time frame average of price. It's the average of price from last quarter. We're also holding right above our overall 382, which was the retracement area from the recent high of about $4,100, I'm sorry, down to that 1,400. All right, so we're holding that. And it's really a big key region here. We've got an overall range here. If you were to kick on our EMAs, this is our 200-day EMA as well as our daily EMA coming in right here as well. So there's a lot of support that's coming in right here, and we really could see a nice little, blast through here, especially with this potential golden cross coming in. Mind you, that's a lagging indicator. So really this is measuring off of what the price action's already done. But we still could see a little bit of a rise right here. And overall, folks, as long as we're holding above this 2440 on daily and weekly closing basis, I still do target the next major area to the upside would be 3,100. While we are trading like this, though, I have to point out that just similar to when we had our untapped quarterly pivot when we began this quarter, this was the average of price from last quarter, likely to be met this quarter. All right. And reminder, we were trading right around here when we opened up the quarter. This was our quarterly pivot. We can obviously see we got there relatively in a hurry. We do have one for the month of June, just below the current price action, and it's just below the current lows right here. So just something to be aware of. If we do, like I pointed out with Bitcoin, maybe we get a little, drop to the downside to that 97, 98,000, and we quickly reclaim some area above us and we get a push back up. If that is to occur, what I'd look for on ETH is probably a move something similar to this, where we come down to 2,300 to 2,350 in that region. And this could be obviously not exact, really, but just to come down and essentially just take all the lows, right? So we've kind of kept all these lows intact. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but if we were going to get a good opportunity here locally to see a swing and a sweep of the lows before a decent little rally, that is something I'll be looking for. And there is reasoning to see that we have some confluence of these levels all converging around this region, right? With this like $2,300 area. Now, if we were to get a deep correction out of Bitcoin, lose this region, then of course our gold pocket is where we're going to be looking to next, back down to about $1,900 to $2,000. Now, quick mention before we continue, folks, if you're into crypto or finance, you're probably heard of SIM swap attacks. It's one of the easiest ways that hackers can gain access to your accounts, and most people don't even realize how vulnerable their phone number is, and that is where Efani comes in. They offer a secure mobile service designed to protect against SIM swaps with military-grade encryption and a $5 million insurance policy included. If security is something you take very seriously, especially in this space, be sure to check out the link down in our description below to learn more. Also, be sure to use code DataDash to get $99 off of either the monthly or yearly subscription. All right, folks, silver has had quite a rally here as of recent, and not sure if we've covered this on the channel live here, but I've covered this multiple times in the past, as well as putting it into the Traders Club Discord. On the last update I was looking to back in February, we were looking for basically this little pullback into this region about the 382 Fibonacci retracement, as well as the untapped yearly pivot. So as we were just discussing earlier, the averages of price, previous sessions meaning just time-wise, we were looking for the new quarterly pivot this quarter for pretty much everything, but the one we just highlighted was Ethereum. It was the average of price from the previous quarter, likely to met this quarter, so on and so forth. There was a yearly version of that on silver, right here at about $28, as well as the 382 retracement. And when we look to see these really strong moves to the upside, sometimes we don't get those gold pocket pullbacks. A lot of times you get a shallow pullback to those 382 retracement areas before the continuation up. So this is set on a replay here, and I'll obviously undo that now. And so far, that's exactly how this ended up playing out, right? We get topped off at our 1-to-1 fib extension here, got our little pullback right into that region, and so far are coming through here. And as long as, honestly, we're holding the 2024 highs, which sits here at the $34.86 mark, and I'm pretty sure that's actually the all-time high. It sure is. So we'll just shift that even just over to all-time high there. I see no reason why we wouldn't make our way up towards this $44 region. Wouldn't put that as an exact dollar amount as far as looking for it to get any kind of pullbacks or hit the brakes at all, but that is where we're most likely heading, holding over these regions here, and that is the next Fibonacci extension. which is putting us into price discovery mode, obviously. And this is where the price action is most likely to see the next level of resistance up into the clear skies above. Now, Coinbase is seeing quite the move as well here off of some of that SEC news, which is pretty positive for the stock. And I did want to point out that as a technical setup that I did share in the Traders Club as well months back, we're looking for this bullish harmonic pattern here known as the bat. And once again, just a sequence of Fibonacci ratios here with specific rules and targets that come along with it. And in this case, the specific targets of this setup are as simple as it gets. For this setup specifically, we have a specific set of targets, which is off of the low right here. We have our 0.382 Fibonacci retracement. Also, we have our B point, which is usually looked at as one, a major one being the gold pocket. So even if we weren't looking at this overall setup, just granted, this gave us an idea to look for this completion zone for this move higher. But a simple gold pocket retracement, which I think everyone can agree, relatively normal to see. We got a really nice move right into it, got a little rejection off there, consolidation. And then finally, the next major target of this region is going to be your C point, which is up here back at $311. So I imagine we're making our way up to that area now. We're sitting at currently $295 time of recording. And that'll be the next major area I'd look to for either a small pullback along that region or the key to the city. If we were to flip that area, I'd be looking for the new highs to come out of coin there. That's going to wrap it up for today's update, folks. If you're looking to stay ahead in these markets and want access to real-time updates, trade setups, and our private community, be sure to check out DataDashPro.com. It's everything you need is in there. Our link is down in the description below, or just check out DataDashPro.com. And don't forget, if you haven't already, please take a moment to look into Efani for serious SIM swap protection, especially in crypto. It's one of the easiest wins for your personal security. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.